Well, hello everyone, my name is Nick, and this week's plant of the week is Monstera standleyana Albo Variegata. A bit of a mouthful, this one. So this, just like all other Monsteras, is a member of the Eraceae family, therefore is considered an aroid, and this, just like many other aroids, is a plant that's been gaining quite a bit of popularity over the last couple years. So this Monstera standleyana is native to Central America, from Honduras down through Panama, and this Monstera is kind of set apart from many of the other ones that were more familiar because this one, even as it reaches maturity, does not develop fenestrations or holes in the leaves. So Monstera adansonii, Monstera deliciosa are monsteras that are much more prevalent on the market and are kind of characterized by their split leaves that they get, or the holes that they get in their leaves. It's kind of their gimmick, if you will. But this Monstera, even as it grows higher and higher up a support or continues to mature, is not going to grow those signature holes in the leaves, so just something to bear in mind. But this plant is more so grown for its interesting variegation. It gets this kind of very variable variegation to the leaves. As you can see, some of them, or barely because this one's a little higher up, has like some really solid white variegation. A couple of the other leaves do too, but most often you're going to see some just real scattered, this kind of splotchy variegation with this one, which I actually kind of appreciate as someone who's not a sucker for variegated plants. I think this one kind of just stands out amongst the rest and has a little bit more subtleness to it that some more seasoned houseplant enthusiasts, let's say, might find a little bit more enjoyment out of. But this is one that I've had for probably roughly 2 years at this point, and it is just one single vine that I have coming out of the pot here, and you can see how it kind of has, let's say, a lot of character. I didn't really want to talk about this plant yet in Plant of the Week, but a lot of people were recommending that I talk about this one, so I want to give you guys what you guys asked for. But as you can see, mine just, like I said, has a lot of character. It's this one long vine that has kind of shot off runners at some points. If you grow other aroids in your home, you might be more familiar with this concept of your plant shooting off runners, where it might be putting off quite a bit of vine for some time. Let's see if I can find any available. You can see this end of the vine here. It has quite a bit of leafless vine, although every once in a while it seems to be putting off a leaf. There's a leaf here, there's another leaf back up here where it's attached to the pole. So it's a little bit more sparse when it comes to putting out foliage in my experience. So in a sense, I guess I'm still learning a little bit with this houseplant, but I do want to share with you guys what I have learned with this over the past couple years. So as far as light goes, you can treat this like pretty much every other Monstera, a deliciosa or an adansonii, where it wants that bright indirect light. In nature, this plant is climbing up the trees to get that higher light, so while it doesn't want to be hit by any direct sunlight, because that is not what it's receiving in its natural habitat, this thing still does want to receive a little bit of like dappled sunlight, nothing too harsh. I grow mine within the vicinity of an east-facing window, and in my old apartment I had it pulled off quite a bit from a south-facing window. So bright light by all means, but not harsh light by any means as well. And as far as the watering goes, this is one that, similar to like many other aroids like Syndapsis, it's going to curl in the edges of its leaves when it's in need of watering. However, this is a houseplant that is a little bit more highly sought after, and you don't want to leave this one unattended for too long. I'm sure some inconsistency in the watering can cause some brown edges, kind of like I've noticed with my adansonii and my Peru, some other monsteras that I grow in my home. So you don't want to leave this one too far on the end, but if you're still just getting acclimated with how to water this plant, you might just want to leave it till the day that you start to notice that those leaves start to curl, and kind of take a mental note about how long that took. But speaking of which, you do also want to make sure that you're using a well-draining soil. Any soil mixture that is more adapted for aroids is perfect. So I'm using a plain soil mix. I believe I'm just using like a peat-based soil mix that I've included some perlite or pumice is fine, and some orchid bark, and even a little bit of charcoal. You want to use a more coarse mixture, because that's what aroid roots would like to grab onto, but they also need to hold on to a little bit more water. You don't want it to just drain through completely, so that's why it's important to add in like at least a little bit of peat or some coconut coir or whatever you use in your home to make sure that there is some substance to the soil. But the well draining, the better. You're definitely going to get better experiences with your aroids with a well-draining soil. In fact, if the soil is holding onto too much water, or if you are overwatering your Monstera standleyana, these lower leaves are going to start to turn yellow and fall off, which is kind of a telltale sign with many other plants, specifically aroids. if you are overwatering your houseplant. In my experience, I have found this Monstera standleyana to be very tolerant of standard household temperature and humidity. If you want to go the extra mile, you could absolutely supplement this with some extra humidity from a humidifier or an enclosure, as you could surmise in Central America, where this houseplant is growing in its natural habitat, it is subject to higher humidities. These leaves are much thicker than many of the other Monsteras or aroids in general that I grow in my home, so I have just found this to be much more tolerant. And propagating this houseplant, you can propagate it by just stem cutting, similar to how you would propagate any pothos or other Monstera or aroid. However, I would like to give you a warning that I have personally never successfully propagated this houseplant. I have found this very similar to Monstera Peru. Has a lot of inactive nodes. So the nodes where the leaves come out of the stem where they would be rooting, I have found often they just don't root up, even after months in the growing season. So if you are going to propagate this, just be wary and maybe consider submerging 2 nodes into water or sphagnum moss. I would not recommend propagating this directly in soil unless you're working with like greenhouse conditions. I don't see it doing well. This could be just a me problem. Let me know your secrets if you have had really good success with this. I also want to mention quickly about this houseplant that it is often mislabeled, referred to, or sold as Philodendron cobra, which kind of relates to think about how Monstera deliciosa is often sold as a split-leaf philodendron. Closely related, totally understand where the name comes from. In fact, Philodendron cobra is a cool-ass name, but just something to be wary of. In fact, I purchased mine as a Philodendron cobra. And maybe you'll find it cheaper if it's sold as a Philodendron cobra, because mine was only $25. Granted, it's just one vine, and the ones that you're probably going to find sold on the market for like $75 or ish. So the normal price that I've been seeing, probably going to be a nice full pot. So you'll probably be in better hands than I am, because I kind of wish that I got a full pot to start out with, because I don't think this is ever going to be a full pot, but I appreciate the character that this houseplant has. As it is an aroid, it's not pet safe. It is moderately toxic, so if you do have nippy pets, one thing to bear in mind there. But this has been a really fun houseplant to grow. Rewarding in its own sense, not rewarding like many other houseplants where they just like flourish and blossom and all of those lovely things that can happen. This one definitely has a lot of character, but I am a big fan of growing different aroids in my home, so obviously I had to give this one a shot, and I don't regret it at all. I think it's got a lot of fun character to it, and maybe one day I'll successfully propagate it. But that's it for today's Plant of the Week. Thank you guys so much for joining me. If you don't already, follow me on Instagram at Philly Foliage, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys in my next video. Have a great day.